Cam Newton was released today, and I don't hate to say I told you so. I told you so. I told you 3 years ago that I had a conversation with an NFL GM that was in the market for a quarterback, and I said, we sat down, we were having coffee, and he's an early morning guy, as am I, and we were having coffee, and I said, where's Cam Newton in your list? He said, it's not on it. I was like, well, I mean, I'm not a huge Cam Newton guy. He's like, it doesn't have anything. He's like, he's not throwing the football right. There's something wrong with his shoulder. And his mechanics are all off. And you compound that with the fact that he hasn't been an accurate thrower, but he's like, leadership qualities are good. Guys like him. Guys respect him. He's been to Super Bowl. He's won a Heisman Trophy. He's won a national championship. Works hard. It's like, just can't throw. Can't throw consistently. And what has happened since is, and I shared that with you, right? I shared that with you. And what's happened since is only kind of played out as such. And you get people who are like, well, this is stunning or this is surprising or not really, shouldn't be. And it's not just because he was in a quarterback battle, and it's not just because he had COVID and then he wasn't vaccinated, so he's in the protocol. That's part of the story, absolutely. But if Cam Newton was really good enough to be a starting caliber quarterback in the National Football League, remember, he was a free agent at the end of the last year. He signed a minimum contract. The Washington football team is coached by Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was taken to a Super Bowl when he was the MVP. And when they played against each other in the preseason, there's a mutual respect there. And what usually is the case in the NFL, you can track this. I mean, the perfect example is the Rams are going to trade Jared Goff, right? So who are you going to trade Jared Goff to? Well, you look up and you say, hey, Brad Holmes is the former scouting director for the Rams. He's the one who told the Rams brass, let's draft Jared Goff. Now Brad Holmes is the general manager of the Lions. You follow somebody who believes in you and knows what you're like when you're at your best. This happens with position coaches. You can track this stuff. And we got some trades to update you on, but there's almost always a connection. I played for that guy, or that guy coached me, or for the coach, he'll swear by somebody's talents. That's how, whether it's Tom Brady swearing by Antonio Brown, he can handle it, or the fact that coaches at position coaches switch teams, and eventually they get a player to sign with them. That familiarity, that relationship is everything. So Cam Newton was released by the Carolina Panthers, and heck, Cam Newton's backup was traded to Washington last year. Remember, Cam signed late, but that's the Washington football team. They cycled through 4 different quarterbacks last year. He signed for backup quarterback money. You know who needed a backup this year? Was the Buffalo Bills. They signed Mitch Trubisky. Think about this for a second. The Buffalo Bills front office and head coach, where was their previous location? Carolina, for Cam Newton. And it's not because they think Cam's a bad guy. Maybe it's because they're not sure if Cam can be a backup. It's really hard to go from, as Allen Iverson said, I don't know any MVP to come off the bench, right? So some of it might be his ego, but a lot of it is just, I don't know if his ego can handle it, and also he can't really throw a football. But we told you this 3 years ago, and it became about a bunch of different things. And he had a game last year against the Seattle Seahawks, and every time people reference Cam Newton's season last year, what will they say? Well, there was that game against the Seahawks where he looked really good. It was like they stopped watching football after that. They didn't watch. Because if you watched football after that, you would have seen that, yeah, it was bad at times. It just was. It was bad at times. Cam Newton only completed above 60% of his throws 4 seasons in the NFL. 4. Last year, he threw for a year in which he started 15 games, he threw for only 2,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Now, we can say it's about COVID. We can say it's about this. We can say it's about that. But, dude, the guy threw for less than 100 yards 4 times. 4. Less than 100 yards. He threw for more than 300 yards 2 times against Houston, who they lost to, who's one of the worst teams in the NFL, and Seattle early on in the season when he played really, really well, 397. If you cut out, it's like, is it the median, the mean? Which is it where you cut out the top and you cut out the bottom, right? If you take out the top 2 performances, right? Seattle was a mess early on. That's why they traded for Jamal Adams. And Houston was just bad. But one of Houston's 4 wins were against the New England Patriots. But if you take those out, that's 700 yards passing, right? So if he started 15 games, so that's 13 games, you do the math, he threw for 1,900 yards. This is terrible. Okay, take out the bottom 2. You're still far and away the lowest number of yardage, the fewest touchdown passes. And of those 8 touchdown passes, 3 came in the last game of the season when they took on the Jets, who wanted to lose. Right? Again, take out the Jets game, and he's got 5 touchdown passes. He's just not that good anymore. In addition to the fact that he's a player from a foregone era. Yes, we have more athletic quarterbacks like him. Right? But it's his inefficiency and his inaccuracy, especially in short and underneath stuff, has always been a bit of an issue. And there's a certain kind of Allen Iverson, look, Allen Iverson, he's championed and heroed. But the fact is that Allen Iverson, with all of his toughness and all of his skill and all of his bravery, he was a tremendous player. But he never took care of his body. He was constantly going out. And he was also a very inefficient scorer. When analytics came to basketball, that was it for Allen Iverson. You can't shoot in the low 40s and not do much on defense or create shots for others. Like, he just wasn't an efficient player. And that's what we have with Cam Newton. And that's what he has in New England. He likely stayed in New England because he liked it, he respected them, and they treated him well, and they built the offense around him. But if you've watched New England play in this preseason, they have to have somebody who's accurate in short and intermediate throws, much like Tom Brady. And that's what Mac Jones is, not what Cam Newton is. So it's not about anything. It's not about the headscarves. It's not about dancing during a set. Although I will point out that while Scott Zolak, it just lazy wording. His point was, when music's playing and you're the leader of a team, it's cool to have fun. But, bro, when you're in a quarterback battle, you got to kind of lock in. And he felt like he was missing reps. And then you factor in that you're the leader of a football team who got COVID last year and you didn't get vaccinated. So and then you left town, which you weren't supposed to leave town if you're not vaccinated, and you violated protocol. You asked to be cut. Like, that's what happens with, I had a practice with 10 and 11-year-olds last night. And I asked them all the time, do coaches play favorites? And they're like, no, good coaches don't play favorites. Yes, the hell they do. They play favorites. I want guys that help me win. But that doesn't just mean scoring. Right? Helping me win is all the other little things, because that's what creates the culture. And if the quarterback who's had COVID won't get vaccinated and isn't available in the midst of a quarterback battle for his football life, don't get mad at the protocols. Don't get mad at anybody. You can get mad at Cam Newton. And look, to respect Cam, he put on his Instagram, don't feel sorry for me. I don't. Did this to himself. Would he have ultimately been on the Patriots the rest of the season? I don't know. But it did feel like it was trending the way of him being a starter, and then all of a sudden you're not there, and the kid outplays you because you can't. It's not a fair fight. You didn't get a shot because you're on COVID protocols. I told you this was coming 3 years ago. It has nothing to do with Cam or any of the nonsense at Auburn or before Auburn or his dad. None of that. He's grown and matured into an almost iconic, legendary player. And despite the fact he didn't have much talent and his arm wasn't good and his fundamentals were bad and he didn't have a true offseason, he never or very rarely complained openly about the lot in life of the New England Patriots. And they found a way without a quarterback who can really throw the football or great wide receivers to somehow get to 7 wins last year. That was a miracle. But you don't draft Mac Jones to sit him. You already have Brian Hoyer, who knows the offense cold and fits the offense if he fills in more so than Cam Newton. And while Cam is great and cool and nice and respectable, you're not going to keep a former MVP as a backup when he doesn't want to be a backup. He hasn't clicked into that mentally. I don't hate to say I told you so. I told you so, and it just played out as such.